it's Dale here. I thought since I've been labouring away for ages sort of working out this book that I've made, if you've been watching me previously you'll know that books that I make I like to work with fabrics or stitch or cloth or flimsies and things like that. So I set myself a challenge to make this particular book, and how it ended up was because I'll start with the cover. The cover is much larger than the book, but that's because I did transfer printing, image transfer, and I particularly wanted this one on the front. So it meant that the back and the cover are bigger than the others, and it caused me a few other dramas. So I'll show you what I did inside anyway. So that's the back, and that's the front I mean, and that's the back. And on the back I've done what I've showed before, and that's stitching on Romeo Water Soluble. So I wrote about, this is about, like I've called it, the girls who came before me. So it's my mother and my older sister. I don't have a younger sister. And my grandmother and great-grandmother and great-great-grandmother on both sides. And so I wrote about them and then washed it out. So that's the stitching. And you can see how it holds itself. People are saying it would break up, but it hasn't broken up. And that's my grandmother, my maternal grandmother. And it's such a lovely photo. I've used it an awful lot of times. I don't have a lot of photos of my, I suppose you call them my ancients, my olds, because they don't seem to appear. So whenever you get one, you grab it. So I made 5 different signatures, and inside the covers I used marriage certificates. So as I said, it's a play thing, and I'm still working on how it would work. I may add another image onto there. So I tackled I made papers, and I made papers with things like I printed information about them onto tissue text. So that's hidden in there as well, like tissue, perhaps their birth or something about what they did and so on. So that's all attached inside the papers. And I used laces, and I used bits of silk fabric, and I used tissue paper and pattern paper and that sort of thing. So I made light ones, and I made heavier pages. This one's a slightly heavier page, and I didn't use a lot of colour. It just depended. I used different stamps and sprays, and I stitched as I made them. So, and then of course there's my ubiquitous flower stitch flowers. They always crop up, and so that's my grandmother. So it's inside, and then I used, you'll see the same as I did a bit of hand stitching. I stitched the pages so I had lines, which is why I've got all these loose ends on here. And I used some silk lace that I had. Mostly used silk chiffon for my fabrics, silk fabric, silk with lace on, and the rest is paper. So it's watercolor paper, or as I said, fine papers. And then I have odds and sods of old tablecloths and napkins and things, and they're quite good to work on as well. And then I also did the stitching on Romeo to make flowers to put down, and I've French knotted them there. And it's always interesting what you've got in your stash. And I worked just with creams and white, so I used cotton thread, and I stitched, I didn't use anything thick or anything outrageous. I just used, I think it was like a DMC cotton or something that just happened to be in my stash. So I found different ones. I also used printed and cut through my hexi dies to give some different shapes. And as I said, that photo of my grandmother, she pops up. There she was again. And you always go for the best ones you can find. And my word, there she is again. And I've done different sorts of image transfers, about 4 or 5 different ones. I did a little bit of stitching here. There she is again. And I did where I put them onto different surfaces, you'll get different effects. So that's one signature, and there are 5 signatures all up. That's my next one. And again, a little bit of stamping here and there, just playing with some different ideas that I had. Here, there's my grandmother and my mother again. Stencil work using fibre paste, which gives a nice rise. Gesso here and there, and this is a different sort of image transfer. It's like the one on the front onto cotton organdy. I've just left it fairly loose, so if I put her down, it looks like she's got funny glasses. So I just stitched her on one side, and stamping, that's my sister. and then I've put my mother again onto some cotton organdy, so you get a different effect that's different from the usual transfer of images. And again, you'll see the lace that comes up. It's good, and it's good to image transfer onto it because it gives that texture underneath. So I'll just flick through a few more. That's my great-great-great-grandmother who came out to New Zealand with her kids from Devon. And that's my German great-great-great-grandmother. Looking formidable, but that's the only photo I have of her. And then just a few others coming along. Since the page, I used fibre paste on that page. And then this is moving to the next stencil. So now I've used a bit of paint that happened to be there, so I didn't worry about the colour. Coming along, that's my grandmother on my father's side. And we're working along here. My sister pops up again. And then we get to the last signature. And it's very similar. So it's just based on things that I know. And then I put them all together. And at the back, I had a lot of trouble because normally you do, according to all the information I was reading, you do different things. But because I had that sheet, I put atop, after I bound them, put some silk that I put fibre paste on to make some texture. So it's fairly fragile, but I'm very pleased with the result of it. So anyway, if whatever you're doing, it inspires you, I hope that it works. And I'll see you again next time. Bye.